As you all probably know, FamilySearch.org is a completely free genealogy website belonging to the Church of the Latter-day Saints. You might have visited one of their family history centers previously to view microfilms that they had made during visits by volunteers to courthouses and repositories around the country where they filmed all kinds of records over decades. Over the past few years, with the cost of microfilm skyrocketing and with more and more repositories going online, they've been engaged in a mammoth effort to digitize all their microfilm holdings, and it was recently announced that they finished. What does this mean to us? It means that millions more documents are now available to us from the comfort of our own homes and computers. It hasn't been possible to order a microfilm from FamilySearch for a while, but now we can just pull up FamilySearch.org on our computers to look at the records. Unfortunately, though all the microfilmed records have been digitized, not all of them are available to view online. If the original owner of the record put restrictions on it, you may still have to go to a family history center to see it, but it'll be on a computer, not on microfilm, which also means you won't have to wait for the microfilm to arrive. One huge caveat, though, is that what they've done is digitize the microfilm, not index it. So while there are records from over 200 countries in more than 100 languages involving births, marriages, deaths, probate, church, immigration, censuses, etc., you can't necessarily search any records that have not been indexed. FamilySearch does have indexing projects you can join, but having the entire collection indexed is a long way off. Because FamilySearch is free to use, it also does not have all the bells and whistles that a paid site like Ancestry might have. For example, there is a collection of records called the Georgia Probate Records, 1742 to 1990, which is just what it sounds like, a collection of records from probate records from Georgia's counties. On Ancestry, you can search this collection with some limitations. For example, usually it's only the person who is the will is about, say, that is indexed, not people just mentioned in it. On FamilySearch.org, you can search it all you want, but it will only bring up records from Houston County. There's a known bug on the FamilySearch version that restricts the search results to Houston County. They'll fix it someday, but they have a lot of other things on their plate, and it is a free service. So let's dig into the various ways to find your ancestors' records, or to find out if what you are looking for is even available on FamilySearch. Be warned, all these methods I'm going to talk about are tedious, and it's unfortunately worth trying all the methods. As with the Houston County results from the Georgia probate records, I've found that different methods of retrieval may have different results on the same database in FamilySearch, as with any website where records have been added over many years using varying methodologies. Personally, I'm so grateful that the whole thing exists that I can put up with the peculiarities, but there are some peculiarities. Also, I only know the ways that I do it. I'm hoping that some of you use different methods and that you'll mention them in the Q&A at the end so we can all learn from everyone's experiences. If you see me do something that you know isn't the right way to do it, please call it out at the end. You can type your comment or question in the chat or just wait and talk at the end. Let's start with the basics, logging in. You have to have an account to use FamilySearch. It's entirely free. There is no part of FamilySearch that costs money, so just register yourself and get started. You'll start with this create account. Then you once you're logged in. And if you forget to log in, you are going to notice in your searches that none of the records appear to be available online. That's the reason, and if you log in, they'll magically appear. I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of that just because it used to be that you didn't have to log into FamilySearch, and so I think that it's possible that some people may think that the records are not online when it's just that they're not logged in. So you can search without logging in, and I'm going to just do a quick search. Just ignore how I'm doing it. We'll talk about this later. I want to show you what happens if you search and find records while you're not logged in. This just takes a minute to come up, and I obviously typed something wrong here. I'm searching by place. And that's because they have a very specific way they want you to do it, which we'll talk about later. So I come down here to probate records. I'm interested in these estate accounts, and I click on it, and notice that the icon under format is this camera with a little key over it, which means that I can't access it online, that it's only available at a family history center or the family history library. Well, in fact, that's not true. It's just because if you look here, I'm not signed in. So if I sign in, I will come back to this record and you will see that the key is gone, meaning that I can access any of these records. So that's an important thing to be aware of. Just make sure always that you sign in. Now let's go back to the main Family Search screen. And of course you'll see the menu across the top. We're going to stay in this search section here, and we are only going to look at images, catalog, books, and research wiki. If you were to go to records, that allows you to search the indexed records, which is not what we're going to talk about. We're going to be talking about the unindexed records that have been recently added. Family tree is for the Family Search One World Family Tree that you may have had some experience with, and genealogies are ones that users have uploaded, and you definitely need to take those with a grain of salt as you do the family tree. So let's start with the research wiki. I'm sure you're all familiar with Wikipedia, and this is the Family Search version. It contains articles on just about anything you might be interested in the genealogy world. We're going to focus on the county sections. You can see you can click on a map, or you can just search for the county that you're interested in. And what it does, it'll bring up all the results, and I'm going to focus on the county pages. So this one says, for example, Liberty County, Georgia genealogy, and it's going to give me a whole bunch of information about the county, including the dates when the various major county records started, whether there was a fire ever at the courthouse, boundary changes, the names of the towns, etc., the types of records that are available. So you can see how valuable this is for your research. But the really cool thing about it to me is that you can add things to this yourself. See where it says edit source? All you have to do is come back up here and ask them to allow you to be a editor on this page. And then you should be able to, that's why I'm seeing edit and edit source, because I am an editor for the page. And it will allow me to add things in here. For example, I have added this where it says Congregational Church Records, that the They Had Names project, which is my project, has created a spreadsheet, and you'll see I've linked to it. This is a great way to give back to all the people that have helped you in your research, and to make sure all of this, for example, are things I've added. It's a very easy thing to do. It's also a great reference for yourself. You can add these things, and then you can keep that. This is your center for when you're researching things in this particular county. I really highly recommend doing this. So exploring the wiki is a great thing. There's not only the county pages, there are pages for just about anything you can imagine, you know, German genealogy, African American genealogy, particular repositories, anything. There's over 97,000 articles, so it's definitely worth browsing. Now let's get the books out of the way. FamilySearch has digitized copies of books that are in the public domain. It has family histories, local histories, all kinds of other genealogy books online that are freely usable. You'll want to use every search term you can think of in this section to try to find the books you might be interested in. The next category under search is images. And this is an interesting section. I don't typically use it very much. What it appears to be is as they digitize records, new records, they throw them into this category of images before they have really put them into the catalog. So if you're waiting for a particular set of records to get digitized and you know they're working on them, you can come here and check periodically, and then you'll just be able to browse through them. You can see that the number of the images is counting up as we watch. That's how frequently they digitized records. The only thing you can search for here is place. And that's because they haven't added the other metadata, which we're going to talk about in a minute, to the records yet. So I really don't use this very much because the same records are under catalog, and that's much better organized. So I would actually be curious, though, to hear in the chat if any of you use images for something I'm not thinking of. So let's go to catalog, which is where we're going to spend most of our time. And it starts out with this very simple search page. The catalog is where the underlying meat of all the family search collection is. This is where you will find the unindexed records. And by unindexed, I mean it's a set of, say, a particular probate records that you can't search by name. The text is not searchable. But FamilySearch has added metadata, keywords basically, to the record set so that you can search by certain things. This allows you to search by place, by surnames, titles, author, subjects, and keywords. I normally use place and author unless I just happen to know the title of the record set, like the Georgia probate records. And surnames, unfortunately, it would be nice, but there aren't very many surnames associated with these records. Place and author give you slightly different results. Let's try place first, which we had tried briefly earlier, and you saw that they like a particular format for the place name to be typed. So we're going to go to Liberty County Records under place. Under availability, you could choose any, or you could choose to restrict it to the records that are available online or to records that are available in a family history center. I always say any because I figure I want to know if there are records that are not available online that I'm interested in. So I'm going to click search. And what comes up is a list of the categories that FamilySearch has divided the Liberty County records into. So you will see guardianship, land and property, military records, probate. Obviously, different counties will have different categories because they had digitized different record sets for them, or because due to some disaster there may be a varying number of records left for that county. The categories are really helpful. You'll see, for example, under probate records, there are 20 categories. A lot of these are court books that were digitized or loose records that were digitized. You'll see, for example, under land and property, there are 16 different record sets in there. So I spend most of my time in court records, and I tend to search for this a different way, not through place. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to choose author, because if you think about it, the author of all of the court records is the county that they're in. So if I put in Liberty County, Georgia here as the author name, leave it at any and search, this is going to be organized differently. You'll see you can ignore the bottom half of the list, but the top part it's organized by the court, the particular court. So, for example, there are 9 record sets under Superior Court. There are 1 record under Land Court because actually they considered that the land records were under the Superior Court. 5 record sets under the Probate Court, but of course, as you know, in older times, the Probate Court was called the Court of Ordinary, so there's 33 record sets under the Court of Ordinary. And so your job is to get really familiar with all of these record sets for the county that you're interested in. Let's start by taking a look inside one of these record sets to see how to navigate it. And I'm going to go to Inventories and Appraisements of Estates. You'll see here it'll tell me that Georgia probate records are available online, so I could have just clicked here and then chosen my county and got there that way. But I wanted to show how to do this. I come down to here. Here is the name of the record set, and then I've got this little camera. Remember, the camera is what shows me that it is available online. If there were a little key above the camera, like we saw when we accidentally searched not being logged in, but under normal circumstances, that little key means that it's only available at a family history center. And then a little picture of a microfilm means that it's still on microfilm or microfiche. They have digitized the microfilms, but not yet the microfiche. So I'm going to click on the camera, and it's going to get me inside the record set here. And basically this is a digitized microfilm. You'll see all the pages from the microfilm. This is a microfilm of Book A of the Inventories and Appraisements at the Liberty County Court. And I can click through them. Right now I can see them as a whole and scroll down, which is very useful because often there will be more than one book in one of these record sets. And so if that happened, as it is here, I would see the transition between the books. So this one is to be continued. This particular book they did in 2 parts, but it might say begin and end, and it would show me that there's a different part to it. This also allows me, if I happen to know that what I want is on page 163 of the book, I can click through and just randomly click on one of these, see which page it is, and try to figure it out. So this view where you see all of the pages as thumbnails is accessible through this 3rd option here on the left. See where it says View Single Image? If I click on that, now it's taking me where I can click through each of the images. I can use my mouse button to make them bigger, smaller. So it tells me what it is. I'm going to click through, begin, Book A, picture of the book. And then many of them, of course, start with a handwritten or typed index. So you can't search for this index. It's not, they haven't tagged the record sets with these names, but for example, Ashmore is one of the surnames I'm interested in, and I see that he has an inventory on page 414 and 415. So what I can do with that is go back to the thumbnail, browse multiple images, and I'm going to guess at where page 414 would be, because this number up here is the image number, not the book number, not the page number. A lot of times there'll be 2 pages on a single image. So I'm just going to click, I'm going to go down a ways, just click. It is going to tell me I'm on page 376. I want 414. So I'm just going to guess that instead of image 237, I need to be on image 250. That takes me to 402. So let's see about this. Make it 250, and there's 414. And there is the name I'm interested in, C.W. Ashmore. So that's a way that you can use the fact that that the courthouse made indexes of the books and often put them at the beginning. So always check the beginning and sometimes the end of the record set to make sure there's not an index like that, because it will save you a lot of time scrolling through. Of course, the problem is C.W. Ashmore was the primary person for that record, but he might also be mentioned in any record in here. So I personally spend a lot of time, if I go back up to the top image, I spend a lot of time like this. I'll go down to the first image and I will start clicking through, and I'll read all these pages and try to figure out whether the person I'm interested in is there. So let's go back to another record set. Those were the probate records. I want to show you the land records. Again, the author is the county, so I'm going to go back to Liberty County, Georgia. I'm going to click on Superior Court because I happen to know that's where the land records are. And we'll come down here and we will see deeds and mortgages. This is an example of where the actual deed books are down here. A copy of each deed book. Here's A and B, C and D. That's where I mentioned sometimes they put two or more books in one record set. But at the top here, they have the indexes separately. So there's a separate record set of just the indexes to the deed books. And again, remember, your ancestor could be mentioned anywhere in the deed. So unfortunately, I do spend a lot of time just paging through the deed books. But you can start with, so example, this is a general index to the mortgages. In this case, they mean deeds also. So if we were interested in W.H. Bacon here at the beginning, we see that his record is in Book Z, page 152. So I would use the back button on my browser to go back to the whole list, and I would scroll down until I find here's books Y through Z. So I would click to open that up. I'm browsing multiple images and I see that this starts with book Y. I know I want book Z. So I'm going to scroll down until I see what looks like the transition to book Z, which is a ways down here because there are 580 images in this record set. And there's book Z. I'm looking for, I think it was page 252. So I'll just scroll down enough till I see a record, could be it, that's 92. So I'm still pretty far off. Scroll down a bit more. 244. I'm just going to guess that 462 will get me there. And I'm one off, so I can scroll, and there I am on page 252. So those indexes that are at the either at the beginning or end of a book, or that might be separate record sets on their own, are extremely valuable for at least allowing you to start looking for where your ancestor might be. Again, you still may just have to browse through and read all of this to find other records that your ancestor may be in.